Hey Jarvis, tell me a joke.
Child, Dad, why does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? Dad, son, it's working, don't touch.
Hello again everyone, and welcome back to my channel. The concept of Homelab is not something that I've ever covered on my channel before. Honestly, I just didn't really think there'd be an audience for it. But I guess I was wrong because the Jupiter Broadcasting Network, they basically came out with a self-hosted podcast where they cover this type of thing. And, it seems to be popular, at least in my circle. So I guess this hobby that I've been doing since probably 2006 or 7 might actually have some merit because it has an official podcast. Wow. So I figured I would make a video about my home lab, the types of things that I run, and see if you guys are interested. And if the numbers show that you are, maybe this is something that I will cover more often on my channel. But what is a home lab? What does that even refer to? Well, basically it means running your own servers. I mean, servers are generally something you see in a data center, right? So why would you want to have these loud racked items in your home? Well, it's actually a lot more popular than you think, especially, like I said, we have a podcast now. But people do this for various different reasons. It could be, for example, Plex. A lot of people like to host their own media. Plex is a huge thing. Other people want to run their own website, but they might not want to pay for hosting. Another really popular reason to run a home lab is for learning. I mean, you will learn more about servers and networking, running your own servers, than you would learn in a week doing something else. I mean, the whole thing is with self-hosting is that if it breaks, you get to keep both pieces. But that's the most exciting part because if it breaks, you get to fix it. And when you fix it, you get to learn. And learning is, it definitely is a great reason to do this. Some people will actually run their own servers because they want to get certified and they don't want to use these virtual labs. They want the real deal on real hardware. And those are people that go above and beyond when it comes to learning. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you my server room first, and then I'm going to show you some of the tweaks, customizations, and automations that I run, as well as some of the software that works behind the scenes on this channel. The hope is that I'll get an idea just how big of a demographic this subject is. I'll look at the analytics. But I also hope that if you are into HomeLab, maybe something that I'm doing will inspire you or give you other ideas for yours. That's part of the fun when you run HomeLab, is to see what everyone else is doing to inspire things that you might want to implement on yours. So let's go ahead and check out my server room. And by server room, in my case, I mean server and gaming room, because this room in my house serves both functions. Classic gaming is one of my hobbies, and that's actually one of the reasons why I create videos on RetroPie. But you didn't come here to hear about that. I have entire videos that are dedicated to RetroPie, like this one. Now on my server rack, I actually have 4 servers here. I have 2 PowerEdge R610s, and I have 1 PowerEdge R710. The R710 is actually running FreeNAS. That's probably the most important server of all of them in my case. Since I have a YouTube channel, I generate a lot of content. And when I say a lot of content, I mean a lot of files. And the storage requirements for a YouTube channel can actually be quite huge, and I wanted something that was powerful and up to that task. Now in the Linux community, we have something called Open Media Vault, which is a network attached storage distribution that is very common. But I wanted to use FreeNAS because it does have first-class ZFS support, and that was very important to me. The two R610s run Proxmox. Proxmox is my virtualization solution, and I only have one of those servers on right now. They are in a cluster, but it's not required for both of them to be online. And nothing on my Proxmox servers are mission critical to the point where they need any failover or anything like that. I mainly only use the clustering and failover as demonstrations in my videos. On this rack as well, I have a T410. So if you don't already know, when it comes to Dell servers, T means tower and R means rack. The T410 is not powered on very often. That's actually my testing server that I use from time to time. It has no dedicated purpose. It's probably only turned on 4 or 5 times out of the month. This little apparatus right here, this is a Cloudlet case. It's something that I found on Amazon. And what that allows you to do is actually attach 7 Raspberry Pis, almost as if they were blade servers. And you can even put a switch here at the bottom, which makes it look pretty cool. 4 of these Raspberry Pis here are in a Kubernetes cluster. It's something that I started playing around with that I hope to create a video on pretty soon. And basically I have 1 Pi as a master node, and then I have 3 Pis as workers. They're all Raspberry Pi 4s. I also have a test Pi, which is actually a Raspberry Pi 3, and that's just for one-off experiments, basically to see how things work on a Raspberry Pi. So, just testing. I also have my development server on here, which is basically where I keep my tmux sessions. It's a Raspberry Pi that stays on all the time. And on there, I have my code for various projects that I work on. And I have a bastion that allows me to get to this instance from wherever I am, so I can easily work on my code anytime I'd like to. And everything on there is backed up via Git. The switch is a Unify switch, which is something that I've found to be the best in my use case. It handles VLANs very well. I have pfSense as my router / firewall, which is not pictured here. And I found that pfSense and Unify actually work very well together. I have the same VLANs defined in both. And it couldn't work any better. It's just a perfect combination in my opinion. And I have other shenanigans going on in my server room as well. Who knows what you might see here? Hey Jarvis, run a speed test.
Starting speed test now. I will be back with the results in a moment. Your download speed is 93.00 megabit per second and your upload speed is 23.16 megabit per second.
So I want to switch gears real quick and talk about software customizations and also the servers that I'm actually running, or the applications that are running on them. So I'll open up my laptop and we'll take a look. Okay, so here on my Galago Pro, you can see the first of 3 tabs that I have open. This is pfSense. Again, this is my firewall / router. It's essentially what makes all the networking, routing, and firewalling happen. In my case, this is a Netgate SG3100. I love this device. It's very fast, and I couldn't be happier with it. You see here that I have a handful of VLANs set up for various purposes. And if I scroll down, for each of the VLANs, I actually have a graph. So if I have any network contention at all, I can usually figure out where it is based on the VLAN. At least it'll narrow it down to the network. And then I can figure out which device it actually is. But honestly, nothing can really take up too much bandwidth on my network because I throttle everything. Every subnet / VLAN has its own maximum speed setting that's far below what my ISP provides. And another benefit of having graphs is that if I see, for example, this graph right here going crazy after bedtime, then I know my kids are on some website or watching TV or something. So I can see all the activity here. Same on the guest network, but I don't really care much about that because, again, that's just for guests. And if I scroll down, you can see that I have an Internet of Things VLAN right here. And you would think it actually looks really busy, right? Well, it's not really even using a megabit right now. And I have that VLAN throttled to a maximum of 5 megabits, so nothing on that VLAN can use too much traffic. In fact, the IoT VLAN, it can't access anything else in the entire house or any other network. All it can do is get out to the internet and back. That's it. The Internet of Things devices are completely segregated from all of my other things. Now switching over here to Proxmox, you can see that this is my Proxmox cluster. I'll see if I can make this bigger for you guys. I probably should have did that on the other tab. Maybe that'll be a bit easier to see. You can see here on the left, I have my 2 Proxmox servers. Again, these are both Dell PowerEdge R610 servers. And like I mentioned, one of them is powered off. And the reason being, you can see that the primary one isn't really all that utilized. It's only using about 22 gigabytes or so of its 64 gigs of RAM, and it's idling below 10%. That's pretty decent. Now, when it comes to VMs, this can actually go crazy because I have a virtual machine. Let me go ahead and move this over here, called Videomatic, which is this one right here. So if I go to the console, see if it works. It takes a minute to come up. So I'll go ahead and log in. Basically what this allows me to do is I can open a project file for my YouTube channel because all of my footage is synced to all my other machines via SyncThing, including this one right here. I can't show you the process right now because I actually use X2Go to interface with this, and I didn't set that up on this laptop yet. But essentially all I do is open X2Go and I'll have the same screen. Kdenlive will come up. I click open. I'll have all my project files and footage files on there because SyncThing makes sure that every single piece of footage that I record is synchronized to this VM. And then once I load the project file, I'll hit the render button and then it'll go ahead and render the video for me. What I like most about this is the fact that I don't have to worry about my laptop or my desktop, whatever device I'm using, having all of its CPUs bound because of a video rendering task, which can actually take quite a bit of CPU. Since everything is offloaded to this server and this server does the rendering work for me, then I don't really have to have a busy computer. And for hardware, you can see that I've allocated 12 virtual processors or 12 cores to this virtual machine. So while the usage is, right now it's actually a bit higher, there might be another job running, this will actually go quite high when I am running a rendering job, which will make this percentage quite a bit larger. But still not enough for me to need both hypervisors or both VM hosts turned on, which is why I only have this one on at any one time. Now real quick, I have a few I'll mention. I have a couple Minecraft servers here. I have Plex for media. That's a very common thing on a Homelab. I also have these 3 staging machines. I have one for Ubuntu, one for Debian, and one for Arch. These are actually Ansible test machines. Ansible is the configuration management solution that I use. I'll talk more about that in a minute. These 3 machines are constantly checking out my Ansible Git repository, specifically the staging branch, and if there's a commit to that branch, it'll run that configuration and then it will let me know if there's an issue. So I guess you can think of this as more of a poor man's CI/CD solution. And then over here on the last tab, I have FreeNAS. Probably not much to go over here, but I'll just show you something right here. I have a set of pools, or actually I have one pool here. I have a bunch of data stores. So you can get an idea how I carve out my storage, which is one of the things I like about ZFS. And you can even see right here, I have 698 gigabytes of YouTube files, or similar to gigabytes. These are gigabytes, but similar. Basically, a lot of content there. And that's not even everything. That's just everything I haven't archived yet, which is why I was saying that, having a YouTube channel, you need storage. So what I'd like to do now, I'll go ahead and close this, is shift gears and talk about my Ansible configuration. So I'll open a terminal, go ahead and make this bigger. So now I'll SSH into my dev server. This is my Raspberry Pi, the one that's always on. And inside here, I have a Git folder, and inside there I have my Ansible configuration. So if I list the storage here, I have several files and directories. I'm going to show you what actually makes this really awesome in my opinion. So if I go into roles, list the storage, you can see that I have 4 roles right here. I have one called base, I have a role for Raspberry Pi, a role for servers and workstations. So this Ansible configuration manages all of my servers and workstations and Pis, as you can see. The base role is applied to everything that has my user account in it, and all of my dot files like my vim configs and tmux configurations, things like that. Basically things that I want to have on every server, laptop, desktop, all of my devices. Another benefit to having a base role is that if there is a security vulnerability in the wild and I need a patch for that, I can simply commit my change to base and all of my machines will get that fix, so I can fix everybody all at once. Now I'll go back a level here, then I'll go into the host vars directory, and I'm going to randomly just bring up one of my host config files. So I will go ahead and open up this file right here. I name most of my machines after Final Fantasy VI Espers, which is where this name came from. And you can already see that I have some configuration here. And what I like about this is I have everything modularized. So here for application selection, for example, I can set true or false for any of these items. Games include Steam, or any games that I basically install on a typical basis. Firefox is here, it's true. Now you might be thinking, that's not really a big deal because Firefox is just a package, you can simply install it. Well, actually, this will download Firefox from the Mozilla FTP, and it will make sure that it's installed. It'll also make sure that it has a desktop file, so it'll show up in the applications list. But what it will also do is every time Ansible runs, if Mozilla has updated Firefox, it'll automatically update it for me, which means I'll often have the latest version of Firefox before Ubuntu and Debian or whatever distribution I'm using even has a chance to package it. The same is true for Thunderbird. It's the exact same thing. The Thunderbird and Firefox task books that basically are activated if these are set to true will remove the distribution version so that I'll only have the vanilla Mozilla version direct from their servers. Google Chrome, again, true, false. SyncThing, which is what I use for all of my laptops and desktops and even some servers, that'll install that. So basically I have pretty much everything true. If I scroll down though, say I have VirtualBox and the Vivaldi browser as well. But what's really fun is the desktop environment selection. So basically I can set true or false to any of these items right here. And for example, if I set GNOME to true, which it is, I could literally install just Ubuntu minimal with no X at all. And if I set GNOME to true, it'll build it all the way up to GNOME being a working thing. It'll install GDM, it'll install GNOME Shell, it'll even set my GNOME keyboard shortcuts and wallpaper. The same is true for the Mate option right here. It'll do the exact same thing, complete with the desktop wallpaper and shortcuts, but with the Mate desktop environment instead. Now, I could do a video more about this if you guys would like, but I'll show it off to you. I'll show you what this actually looks like. So I'll log out of here, and what I'm going to do now is SSH into one of my testing servers. So let's just pick Ubuntu Staging. So now I'm on the Ubuntu Staging VM. Now Ansible is already set up on this machine. It'll check in every now and then, and if there are any commits to my Git repository, it will automatically run them. So basically, I don't have a central Ansible server. I use Ansible pull, and each of my nodes is instructed to only run Ansible if there's actually been changes to the repository, which avoids unnecessary CPU usage. If I commit a change to my Git repository for Ansible, it'll run on all of my machines. And I'll also get a report via a Telegram bot that'll tell me exactly what happened, if it was successful, if it was unsuccessful. So once I do have Ansible set up, I can simply run this command right here, which is simply provision. I can do this on any of my machines to force an Ansible check-in at any time. But what if I don't have Ansible set up at all? What if this was a brand new machine? Well, simply all I'd have to do is run curl deploy / bootstrap and pipe that to sudo bash. Now in this case, deploy is the name of the server and bootstrap is the Ansible bootstrap script, which is hosted by Apache. This command can only be run on my home network. This is not accessible outside of my network. So while I normally don't recommend piping anything to sudo bash unless you check it out, this script is actually something I maintain myself, and you can only get to it if you are on my network. But simply all I have to do to set up a new machine is install Linux, whatever distribution. Once it's installed, I simply run this one command. So I'll go ahead and run it right now, even though it's already set up on this machine. And now it says running first bootstrap. I'll minimize this. Then I'll tail follow var log ansible.log. And here you can see that the Ansible provision is already well on its way. Right now it's actually copying over dot files and it's going to do a bunch of things. So I'm not going to hold the video open just for this, but you can see it's doing some actual work. So I know I've glossed over pretty much everything here. This was a high-level look at my Homelab, but if you want to know more about any particular component, let me know in the comments below, and I might actually do a dedicated video on that as soon as I get caught up with the others. Now, I won't do any videos about FreeNAS or pfSense, reason being my friend Tom Lawrence already does an amazing job with that content. And he's the guy I recommend you go and check out his YouTube channel if you want to know more about those. But for anything else, I'll definitely consider doing videos. In fact, I already have some Proxmox videos on my channel that you can check out right now. So what do you think about Homelab? Is this something that you would like to, know more about? Is it something that I should be creating content on? Or do you think it's a terrible idea? Let me know in the comments below. And then in the meantime, I will get back to working on some other videos I have coming in the pipeline. So subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for checking out my video. I really appreciate it. If you found it useful, click that like button. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe so you'll see the latest content as soon as it becomes available. If you want to help me out, there's links down below for my Patreon page, as well as links for purchasing my Linux books and also my affiliate store, which has a listing of Linux-compatible hardware that I've actually tested personally. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.